What if I told you that the most guarded secret, the most whispered about mystery in one of America's most famous reality TV families, has finally been revealed? A story so shocking, so long anticipated, that it's sending waves through their community and leaving fans everywhere absolutely stunned. For years, the question has hung in the air, a silent echo in every family photo, a subject of endless online speculation and fervent hope. And now, it appears the wait is over. The headline you never thought you'd see is flashing across news feeds: Duggar pregnancy shock. Jana Duggar finally expecting, family celebrates together. But is this the full story? Or is there a deeper, more complex narrative hiding just beneath the surface of this celebratory news? Tonight, we're going beyond the clickbait. We're peeling back the layers of this announcement, exploring the context that makes it so electrifying, and understanding what this moment truly represents for the Duggar family legacy. This is a story about tradition, about expectation, about the intense spotlight on a woman who has chosen a path less traveled until now. Or has she? Strap in. Because this is more than just a pregnancy announcement. This is a cultural moment, years in the making. To truly grasp the magnitude of this headline, we have to rewind the tape. We have to go back to the beginning, to the phenomenon that started it all. 19 kids and counting. The very title was a statement of purpose, a declaration of a lifestyle built on faith, family, and a very specific set of principles. The Duggars burst onto our television screens, a sprawling, organized, seemingly perfect unit from small-town Arkansas. Michelle and Jim Bob Duggar, the patriarch and matriarch, built their brand on their abundant blessings, their children. And as the family grew, so did their roles. The older daughters, the J sisters Jana, Jill, Jessa, Jinger, and Joanna, became familiar faces. They were their mother's helpmeets, a sister mom brigade tasked with managing the bustling household. We watched them grow up in real time, under the watchful eye of millions. And the family's courtship rituals, their modesty standards, their journey from first kiss at the altar to starting their own families, became a central storyline. One by one, the sisters embarked on courtships, got married, and began having children of their own, expanding the Duggar dynasty. But amid this predictable pattern, one figure stood apart. Jana Duggar, the eldest daughter. Positioned right there in the center of the frame, yet somehow an enigma. While her younger sisters walked down the aisle, Jill to Derek, Jessa to Ben, Jinger to Jeremy, Joanna to Austin, Jana remained. While her sisters announced pregnancies, navigated motherhood on social media, and added more branches to the family tree, Jana remained. She became a constant in the Duggar family home. Her identity, as portrayed and perceived, became multifaceted: the capable organizer, the gifted gardener, the dedicated aunt, the steadfast daughter caring for her younger siblings. She was praised for her patience, her skills, her devotion. But the public narrative, fueled by the family's own emphasis on marriage and childbearing as a cornerstone of their faith, inevitably began to spin a different story around her. The quiet, unmarried eldest daughter in a family of 21 people. The internet buzzed with questions. Endless forums dissected her life. Why wasn't she courting? Was she choosing to stay single? Was she content? Was she, as some speculation cruelly suggested, left behind? The term Cinderella Duggar was used, painting her as the perpetual helper, never getting her own fairy tale. Every family photo became a subject of analysis. Every social media post was scrutinized for clues. Jana herself offered few direct answers, often deflecting with humor or grace, speaking of waiting on God's timing and being fulfilled in her current season. But the mystery only deepened. She became a symbol, a blank canvas upon which fans and critics projected their own views about agency, choice, and pressure within the family's belief system. Her silence on the matter was deafening, making her one of the most compelling and talked-about figures in reality television, precisely because she defied the very narrative that made her family famous. This brings us to the present day. To the rumblings, the sources close to the family, the blurred social media hints, and finally, the explosive headline. Jana Duggar expecting. The reaction was instant and seismic. For a fanbase conditioned by years of Duggar pregnancy reveals, the matching shirt announcements, the gender reveals, the birth specials, this was the ultimate reveal. It wasn't just another baby, it was Jana's baby. The woman who had watched countless pregnancy announcements for her sisters and sisters-in-law was now, reportedly, at the center of her own. The phrase "family celebrates together" in the headline is particularly evocative. It conjures images of the familiar Duggar living room, filled with beaming siblings, Michelle's tears of joy, Jim Bob's proud smile. It suggests a unity, a collective sigh of relief, a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. It paints the picture of a long-awaited dream coming true, not just for Jana, but for the entire family system. It frames the event as a joyful culmination. But, and this is a crucial, but we must press pause on the celebration for a moment. Because the initial report, that shocking clickbait headline, raises more questions than it answers. The most glaring, the most immediate question is one so fundamental, the headline astonishingly seems to skip right over it. Who is the father? In the meticulously documented universe of the Duggars, courtship is a public affair. It's a process announced with fanfare, chaperoned, documented through social media posts, and maybe even a TV special. The journey from special friendship to courtship to engagement to marriage is a linear, public pathway. There is no precedent for a surprise pregnancy announcement absent a preceding courtship or marriage announcement. None. So this headline, in one fell swoop, shatters the established Duggar template. It doesn't just announce a pregnancy, it announces a profound mystery. If this news is accurate, it implies a story behind the story that has been kept entirely away from the public eye. A relationship that flourished in complete secrecy, a deviation from the family's well-worn playbook. This single missing detail transforms the narrative from a simple happy news story into a potential saga with countless possible directions. Let's explore the possibilities, and with each one, the story expands, the questions multiply. Scenario 1. The traditional path kept secret. Perhaps Jana did get married, in a ceremony of utmost privacy the family has never before exercised. Could the Duggars, weary of media scrutiny, especially after the scandals involving her brother Josh, have decided to shield Jana's happiness completely? To give her a season of life entirely for herself, away from the cameras and the commentary? This would be a monumental shift in strategy. It would mean constructing an elaborate veil of normalcy around her life, while a monumental personal change was happening. Who could this man be? Someone from within their tight-knit church circles? A longtime friend who quietly became more? The logistics of hiding a courtship, an engagement, a wedding in today's digital age, within such a large family, seems staggering. But not impossible. If this is the case, the family celebrates together headline makes perfect sense. It's the joyful end of a secretly traveled, but ultimately traditional road. Scenario 2. A completely new narrative. What if the path wasn't traditional at all? What if Jana's journey took a turn no one anticipated? This opens a universe of sub-possibilities. Could she have formed a connection outside her usual sphere? Someone who doesn't fit the typical Duggar mold? The potential for conflict, for drama, for a fundamental clash of values and expectations is immense here. How would the family, so dedicated to a specific way of life, navigate this? Would the celebration be genuine or strained? The headline says celebrates, but human emotions are rarely that simple. This scenario isn't just about a baby. It's about identity, autonomy, and potentially redefining what it means to be a Duggar in the modern world. Scenario 3. The headline is misdirection. In the age of viral news, could there be elements of truth wrapped in layers of misconception? Could the celebration be for something else entirely, misinterpreted by an overeager source? Or, in a darker twist, could this be an intentional plant, a piece of misinformation designed to stir the pot, to gauge public reaction, or to distract from something else? We've seen the Duggar family navigate PR crises before. While this seems less likely given the specificity, in the tangled web of fame, nothing can be entirely ruled out. Each of these scenarios leads us down a different rabbit hole, and each rabbit hole is filled with its own set of characters, motivations, and potential fallout. To understand them, we need to look at the other players on this stage. First, Jim, Bob, and Michelle, the architects of the Duggar Empire. Their public philosophy is clear. Daughters live at home under their father's authority until they are transferred to the authority of a husband through marriage. A pregnancy outside of that structure would represent not just a personal family moment, but a very public challenge to that core belief. How would they reconcile their love for their daughter with their proclaimed principles? Would this moment force a public evolution of their stance? The dynamics here are fraught with potential for both beautiful grace and profound tension. Then, the siblings. Jill, who has publicly charted a more independent course and had her own struggles with the family system. Jessa, often seen as a steadfast defender of the family brand. Jinger, who has moved away and written about finding a new kind of faith. Jana, who has walked a more traditional path. How would each of them react? Would they rally around Jana unconditionally? Would there be private judgments, whispered conversations? The sister dynamic, once a unified front, has already shown subtle fractures. This event could be a catalyst that brings them closer together or exposes deeper divides. And we cannot forget the audience, the fans, the critics, the followers on social media. For years, they've been divided into Team Jana, leave her alone, and Team Why Isn't She Married? This news would explode those camps. The commentary would be relentless. Support would pour in from those celebrating her autonomy. Judgment would rain down from those adhering to a stricter interpretation of her family's values. She would be a trending topic, her every past post re-examined, her future moves watched with hawk-like intensity. The privacy she may crave would be shattered forever in a new way. And what of the practicalities? Where would she live? The Duggar compound, Tinker Toy House, is famously full. Would she stay there, a single mother in a house full of siblings? Would she move into a home of her own, a first for an unmarried Duggar daughter? What about her passions, her gardening, her design work, her music? How would motherhood reshape the life she's carefully built for herself as an individual? Finances, childcare, daily routines, all of it changes. Then, there's the spiritual dimension. The Duggars' faith is not a passive background element, it's the framework of their existence. How would Jana's home church community respond? What would their ministry connections say? This isn't just a family matter, it's a community matter within a specific religious subculture. The celebration might be genuine within the immediate family, but what about the wider circle? Let's zoom out even further. Beyond the gossip, beyond the family drama, Jana Duggar's story, especially if this headline proves true, taps into something universal. It's a story about the weight of expectation. The pressure to follow a script written by family, by culture, by religion. The strange limbo of being happy in your own life, while the world incessantly asks why you aren't living a different one. For years, Jana has been a Rorschach test for our views on single women, on choice, on happiness that doesn't conform to a timeline. If she is expecting on her own terms, in her mid-30s, it reframes her entire narrative. It transforms her from a perceived passive figure, waiting into an active agent in her own life story. It suggests that her timeline, however mysterious, was hers all along. The finally in the headline, finally expecting, carries the audience's impatience, not necessarily hers. Perhaps she wasn't waiting at all. Perhaps she was living. And now, her life is entering a new chapter that she chose, in her own way, in her own time. But that's just one interpretation. The lack of concrete facts means we are all writing the story alongside her, projecting our hopes, our biases, our own narratives onto her situation. So, where does this leave us? With a sensational headline and a canyon of unknowns. The clickbait does its job, it hooks us, it shocks us, it makes us need to know more. But the real story, the documentary-worthy story, is everything that comes next. The next few days, weeks, and months would be a masterclass in crisis and image management, in family diplomacy, and in personal resilience. Will there be an official statement from the family? A carefully posed photo on the family website? A tell-all interview from one of the siblings? A silent retreat from the public eye? Will Jana herself ever address the cameras or her followers directly, or will she continue her policy of graceful silence, letting her life be the only statement she makes? Every social media update from any Duggar will be dissected. Is that a baby blanket in the background of Jessa's Instagram story? Is Joanna visiting Arkansas more frequently? Does Michelle look tired or radiant in a new photo? The drip feed of clues would be agonizing and all-consuming for followers. And what about the other storyline, the father? If he exists and is present, will he step into the light? What is his story? How did they meet? How did they navigate a relationship in the blinding glare of the Duggar spotlight, yet completely hidden from it? His revelation would be a second seismic event, potentially even bigger than the first. Alternatively, if the headline is accurate in the pregnancy, but the father is not in the picture, that opens an entirely different, and perhaps even more challenging, narrative about single motherhood, faith, and redemption within the Duggar worldview. The celebration might be tempered with a more complicated, private grief or struggle. This is the point where a traditional documentary might seek to wrap up, to offer conclusions. But life isn't a neatly wrapped episode. Real stories are messy, ongoing, and resistant to easy endings. The headline, Jana Duggar finally expecting, isn't an ending. It's a breathtaking, chaotic, and profound beginning. It's the first sentence of a new book. A book with pages yet to be written. The next chapter involves difficult conversations in quiet rooms. It involves nursery preparations and doctor's appointments conducted away from prying eyes. It involves a family recalibrating their public image and their private dynamics. It involves a woman stepping into the most defining role of her life, not as the eldest Duggar daughter, not as the single sister, but as a mother on the cusp of her own creation. The celebration, if it happened, was just a moment. A flashbulb of joy. But now comes the living. Now comes the morning sickness and the baby kicks, the sorting of hand-me-downs and the wrestling with new identities. Now comes the relentless march of time toward a due date that will change everything. And outside the walls of whatever house Jana is in, the world watches, waits, and wonders. The speculation will not cease. It will evolve. What will she name the baby? Who does it look like? How is she managing? Where is the father? What does this mean for the Duggar legacy? Welcome back. When we left off, a single headline had shattered a decade of silence and speculation. Jana Duggar finally expecting. We called it a beginning, not an end. And in the days and weeks that followed that initial seismic leak, that's exactly what it proved to be. The announcement was merely the first crack in the dam. What followed was not a flood of clarity, but a slow, relentless strip of clues, contradictions, and calculated silences that pulled the public, and arguably the family itself, into a labyrinth of unanswered questions. The family celebrates together. Part of the headline was the first fragment to be put under the microscope. And almost immediately, fractures appeared in that cheerful narrative. First, the silence. In the Duggar universe, major life events are communal property. A courtship is a family announcement. A pregnancy is a coordinated social media blitz with matching sibling posts. But after the initial celebrity gossip site report, there was nothing. No smiling photo on the family's official website. No cascade of congratulatory posts from Jill, Jessa, Jinger, or Joanna. No beaming video from Jim, Bob, and Michelle. The official Duggar channels were a ghost town regarding Jana. This was unprecedented. This silence was louder than any press release. But the vacuum couldn't hold. The story was too big. And so, the intelligence gathering moved to the periphery, to the less guarded, more spontaneous social media accounts of the extended clan and their circles. And there, in the blurred backgrounds and the carefully cropped corners of Instagram stories, the detective work began. A photo from a younger Duggar sibling showing a family dinner. The table was extended, extra places set. But if you zoomed in, paused, enhanced, was that a glass of sparkling cider placed pointedly in front of Jana, while others had soda? Meaningless or a tell? A week later, Joanna Forsyth posted a photo of her children playing in a garden. But eagle-eyed followers didn't look at the kids. They looked past them, to the porch of the main house, where a shadowy figure sat in a rocking chair. The figure's posture, the outline of the hair, the forums erupted. That's her. Look, she's wearing a loose sweater. Others fired back, "It's a cool evening. It's March. That proves nothing." Then came the sighting at the local farmer's market. A blurry, long-lens photo from a source showed Jana, dressed in a flowing maxi dress and a denim jacket, walking with two of her younger sisters. The angle was poor, the resolution worse. But the commentary was pixel perfect. "She's definitely carrying differently. That's the pregnancy glow they talk about. She's just standing naturally, you're imagining things." This was the new phase of the story, the era of forensic fandom. Every scrap was evidence. But evidence of what? The pregnancy itself remained an unconfirmed, yet widely accepted, truth. But the context, the how, the who, the family celebrates part, was now shrouded in a fog of digital whispers. And then, the first official ripple. It didn't come from the Duggars. It came from the network, or rather, the ghost of the network that made them famous. A producer from a major streaming service, anonymously quoted in a trade publication, mentioned a renewed interest in family legacy documentaries, especially those with ongoing, real-time narratives. The article didn't name the Duggars, but it didn't have to. The connection was drawn instantly. Was this a feeler? Was someone shopping a new special? Jana, her story? The idea was both grotesque and inevitable. Her private moment, packaged for public consumption once more. This rumor triggered the first semi-public reaction from within the family. Not from a Duggar, but from a Duggar-adjacent figure. It came in the form of a Bible verse posted to an Instagram story by Laura DeMacy, a longtime friend of the family who had often been romantically linked to various Duggar sons. The verse was from Psalms. "The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me." It was posted without caption, without context. But the timing, just hours after the streaming documentary rumor broke, felt deliberate. Was it a message of support for Jana, a plea for strength against the vultures? Or was it a more general lament about the state of the world? The ambiguity was likely intentional, but it fed the narrative that a storm was brewing behind the scenes. The dam finally showed a more significant crack with the actions of the most independent of the Duggar siblings, Jill Dillard. Jill, who had publicly distanced herself from the family's strict filming contracts and written a book about her journey, had been quiet. But her silence broke in a characteristically modern way. She launched a new Q&A highlight on her Instagram profile. Among questions about her kids, her life in Arkansas, and her favorite recipes, one submitted question, visibly upvoted by hundreds, stood out. "How do you support a sibling going through a major life change in the public eye?" Jill didn't answer it with a video. She didn't even answer it directly. She simply pinned the question to the top of the highlight. For days, it sat there. A silent, screaming monument to the elephant in the room. By not answering, she answered everything. Yes, something was happening. Yes, it was major. Yes, it was under public scrutiny. And yes, the family dynamics around it were complex enough that the most outspoken sibling would only communicate through strategic silence and a pinned question. This was meta-commentary. This was Jill using the tools of the public sphere to acknowledge the situation without violating what might have been a family-imposed gag order. It was a masterstroke that further confirmed the gravity of the situation. Then, the location data. In late April, a plane tracking account, those bizarre, dedicated forums that follow celebrity jets, noted that a small private plane had filed a flight plan from Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport to a small airfield in rural Tennessee. The plane was registered to a LLC that business records loosely connected to a longtime Duggar family friend, a wealthy benefactor from their church circles. Why did this matter? Because 2 days later, Kendra Caldwell, wife of Joseph Duggar, posted a photo of her children playing with cousins at what she described as a beautiful, peaceful retreat. The greenery, the architecture in the blurry background, internet sleuths cross-referenced it. It matched a known, secluded Christian family retreat center in the exact same region of Tennessee. The center was known for offering counseling and quiet getaways for ministry families. The pieces were forming a disturbing, albeit speculative, picture. A sudden, discreet trip out of state. To a retreat center. Not a vacation hotspot, but a place for reflection and, possibly, counseling. This no longer felt like a simple celebration. This felt like a strategic withdrawal. An intervention of care, perhaps. Or damage control. The family celebrates together headline now seemed not just incomplete, but naively simplistic. The family wasn't just celebrating, they were mobilizing. They were circling the wagons. The operation had moved into a phase of protection and management. And then, the sighting that changed the calculus entirely. It wasn't a paparazzi photo. It was a selfie. A cheerful, mundane selfie posted by a young woman named Hannah, who worked at a boutique plant nursery in Springdale, about 30 minutes from the Duggar compound. The caption was about her love for her job and a new shipment of heirloom tomato plants. But in the background of the selfie, blurred but unmistakable to anyone familiar with her, was Jana Duggar. She was turned partly away, examining a potted herb. She was wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. And her profile, in that casual t-shirt, left little to the imagination. There was a gentle, but undeniable curve. This was not a loose sweater or a trick of the angle. This was the confirmation the forensic fandom had been waiting for. The pregnancy was visually, undeniably real. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was the date. The photo was time-stamped by the app. It had been taken just the day before. And Jana Duggar was not in Tennessee at a retreat center. She was home. In Arkansas. Shopping for plants. Alone. The narrative splintered into 1,000 new directions. Had the Tennessee trip not included her? Had she gone and come back? Was she refusing to participate in the family's planned retreat? Was the retreat for them, not for her? The image of Jana, solitary and focused amongst the greenery, presented a powerful new character in our story. Not a shielded victim, not a celebrated mother-to-be, but a woman going about her business with a quiet, steely normalcy. She looked content, independent, in control. This single, accidental selfie did more than confirm the pregnancy. It introduced the concept of Jana's agency into the public narrative with brute force. She wasn't hidden away. She was living her life. The fallout from this innocent photo was immediate. The plant nursery's Instagram was flooded with comments. Hannah, the employee, wisely made her account private. The Duggar forums went into meltdown. Theories exploded. Theory A, the exile. Perhaps the family, struggling with the circumstances, had encouraged her to go to the retreat for counseling and reflection. She had refused. She was choosing to stay in Arkansas, near her own home and her own support system, which might not be exclusively her family. The celebration was a facade. Underneath was a struggle for autonomy. Theory B, the normalcy doctrine. Perhaps this was all a massive misunderstanding. The pregnancy was joyful and planned within a marriage no one knew about. The retreat was a pre-planned family event unrelated to her. She was simply living her happy, private life, and the public was weaving a gothic novel out of thin air. Her calm plant shopping was the biggest clue, a woman with nothing to hide. Theory C, the waiting game. Perhaps the father was known and present, but for reasons unknown, perhaps legal, perhaps related to his own family or position, they were waiting to make a joint announcement. The family retreat could have been to plan that very announcement strategy. Jana's public appearance was a signal that she was fine, to quell the more outlandish rumors.